In this video, I'll be sharing 3 really uncomfortable sales truths that I wish I learned earlier in my journey. And these are not your feel-good kind of stuff. These are lessons that were really painful for me to learn. And I'm glad I learned them early on in my journey, so I want to share them with you. You'll learn why some prospects don't really buy, how to spot red flags with certain prospects, and what objections actually mean, okay? So with that said, let's start with lesson number 1. Until someone pays, they're not in. And I know it sounds obvious, like obviously, Miodrag, they're not in. But how many times did it happen to you? I know it happened to me that I talk to this person and it can be over the messenger or DM, whatever, or over the call, and they're like, that's it, I'm in, deal, right? And I get excited. I'm like, yes, sale, especially when it's high ticket, right? Like, fuck yeah, they're in. Only to have this bitter feeling of disappointment. And I want to share a story that illustrates this. This is when I actually learned it. And again, luckily, it was early on in my journey. So it was 2020. It was May, I believe. And I was just leaving my job and I needed money, right? Like I started making money online, but I obviously needed more because there was no safety cushion from getting that salary on every 15th of the month. And I was talking to this person over the messenger, and they were really interested in what I was doing. I was selling like high ticket Facebook organic program. And I jumped on a call with this person because they were interested to learn more. They didn't want to share the screen. We did use Zoom. And you know, when all things kind of align, like she was super excited about this. She seemed really great, really genuine. I like her. I was like, I want to help you. This sounds awesome. It made sense for her. Everything was aligned, and it was like about 30-ish minute conversation. We were done. She was like, okay, I'm in. Let me just grab a credit card. I'll pay. That's awesome. I was like, hell yeah. And we hang up the Zoom, and like 5, 10, 20, 30 minutes later, nothing happens. And she was like, literally, I'm like getting off the phone, paying, and that's it. Now you can say rookie mistake, Miodrag, you should have collected payment, but this was like green Miodrag from like almost 5 years ago, so I didn't know it at the time. Anyways, she doesn't come back. Like 1 hour later, 2 hours later, I shoot her a message like, hey, did you manage to get it? I didn't see anything go through, right? And she doesn't answer. And 12 hours pass by, and now I'm kind of like getting a bit anxious, a bit like, what's going on? She said she's in, right? And I think I waited. Tomorrow, I sent her another message. I'm like, is everything okay? Did I said something wrong, right? And nothing. She just ghosted me. And that made me feel even worse. I'm like, even let's say she did change her mind, like you could have said so. Like one of my biggest values is integrity, and I allow when people do what they said they would do. And in case they are, for whatever reason, stopped, they cannot do it. Another one of my values is communication. Like, okay, things can pop up in life, of course, for everyone, but you can say so, right? And nothing. She just ghosts me. And another day goes by, and I see her online. This is all on like Facebook Messenger, and I can't remember if I saw that she posted something. And this pissed me off even more because it means that okay, you can see the messages, you are online. It's not that something happened so she couldn't answer. And I never got an answer from her, and it was so painful because in my mind I made $750, which at the time was 2.5 months salary. I used to work for $300 on an assembly line in Serbia, and making $750 was a huge, huge deal, especially just as I was leaving my job. And this was really big lesson for me. As much as it sting, I learned later on that number one, until they pay, they're not really in. It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter, like you can talk, you can be next to them, they tell you they're in. Until they pay, they're not in. And I guess second lesson is you want to collect those. If you are having calls, you want to collect those payments ideally on the phone. And another thing, like another way, I'll give you like a pro tip. Let's say they're stopped from making payment right now, or they want to do it in a week or a month. Pro tip is that you at least want to take a deposit. I just closed like 4-figure client, and she couldn't start when we spoke. I think this was end of November, but she had to wait for like month and a half. And again, from my experience, even if when you need to wait for someone for a day, you tend to lose them. So what I try to do now is like collect some kind of deposit, and then later they can be in. So that's another way to kind of like make sure that these people really come back. By the way, every week I'm releasing new videos on how to grow your following with your ideal avatar, how to monetize your following, how to land high ticket clients. So if you're interested in these things, don't forget to subscribe. And if you enjoyed this particular video, don't forget to like. It really helps the algo and it helps me give that boost because I'm just restarting my YouTube journey. So it will be helpful. Now, lesson number 2, another bigger one, is the harder someone is to close, the worse client they usually are. And I think I also learned this early on in 2020. I was part of this, again, high ticket Facebook organic mastermind for affiliate marketers. And I think they brought like closer from, I'm not going to name the program in case there's some issues because I think they're still around. But anyways, this big guy, I think he sold probably multiple 8 figures. Don't quote me on this, but he made a lot of money online selling mostly on the phone, and I heard it from him. And I had experiences before that, and I was like, oh, that makes so much sense. I had experiences, but I had to go back and forth for like weeks or even months with some people, and they had so many questions and so many objections and all this stuff, and they're really difficult. Like you probably had those clients, like they're so difficult to close, but you want a deal, right? So you try to close them, and you do, and then it's like, you get burned, right? And it hurts, and they are pain in the ass, and they either nag you or annoy you, or they don't show up, or they don't do the work, or worse, they ask for refunds. Like I actually, ironically, I learned this lesson in 2020, and I think 2 months ago I had this experience where this guy, whenever he sees me like dropping a screenshot of making sales, he pops in my messenger. He's always interested. He purchased some low ticket stuff from me before, and I knew my stuff can help him, right? So he was interested in this thing that I was selling, sees me sharing some commission or money screenshots, and he reaches out and he was interested in the workshop I was doing. But because he was not doing anything actively, I told him like this workshop is a bit advanced, so it's really not for you. If you do want to do something, I have this thing which like makes more sense for beginners, and I'll give you the workshop for free, right? And again, this guy was super difficult to close. We spoke like 6 months before that. He literally voiced out for me, this make more sense for me to make money, but I'm choosing the option not to. Like he literally said that. And I don't know why I didn't like leave it alone. And I sell this guy this thing, and 12 hours later, I don't think he even been through the thing that I sold him, he asked for a refund. And this is on my new Stripe. I get additional pissed off that had I think around almost 200 successful transactions, meaning without any refunds. And this random guy that was really difficult to close and annoying just like ruins it. He was like, I want a refund. And no good reason. That's another thing. It's not like, oh, I've been through this material, it's not good, whatever. I respect that, that's totally fine. But after 12 hours of purchasing, he was like, no, I don't want it. And I got pissed, and I really learned the lesson. By the way, all of these lessons, they're not black or white. It's like, to which extent do you learn them and apply them and know them? So I was reminded of the lesson that harder someone is to close, you're better off. Honestly, you're better off without them. I know sometimes we cling for money, we want to make more. But again, from my experience, it's better not to close the deal. Now, lesson number 3, this one actually doesn't sting as much. Maybe it will sting after you realize it in case you don't know it. But most objections are smokescreen, and most objections are not about time and money. A lot of the times, and I learned this from Cole Gordon, a lot of the times it's insecurity objection disguised as money or time or I need to think about it, right? This is when we probably haven't communicated the value of this or why they should do it right now, and they come like, oh, it's too expensive, right? And if you let it go there, and if you think about it, the money, and if you try to handle for the money objection and it's not, you will lose the sale, because it's different whether it's real money objection, as in I physically don't have X amount of money and I probably can't get them anytime soon, and I have the money, I just don't think this would help. Mind you, this is mostly for calls, if you're doing Zoom calls or whatever, but you want to ask prospects like, okay, it totally makes sense. Money aside though, on a scale 1 to 10, where do you land about this process, like getting you whatever the result they're looking at. Like 1 being like, this can never help me. 10 being like, if I had the money, I would do this. I know this would help me get a result, right? And if they land anywhere, and by the way, another pro tip, maybe want to say, you cannot say 7 because a lot of people will default to 7. So if they're anything below 9, maybe even 9, it means it's probably insecurity objection. If they're like 6 or 8, it means they're not 100% certain. So instead of handling the money objection, you want to handle why do they think it will not work for them. And if you can handle that objection, then automatically you can overcome money objection. And this comes for the time, for I have to think about it. You always want to isolate objections. Now, I'm not a pro salesperson. I made most of my money without calls, but you can use this in DMs as well, not as powerful, but at the very least you can realize that what people say sometimes is just to get away from the phone, from the responsibility of making decision, all this kind of stuff. And you want to dig into it and see what's the real reason they're saying no, and then you can try to overcome that reason, and you can do it in many ways. One of the things that I love to do is I love to give bonuses or some sort of trainings that will help address that objection. So I'll give you this bonus. This is something I learned from my coach back in also 2020. A lot of lessons I learned in that first real year of business. She was like, what are objections that you're getting? And a lot of the objections I was getting is, I don't have enough money, right? I don't have money, it's too expensive, whatever. And she was like, you want to create something that overcomes that objection. So I created a masterclass that was around like, how can you make your next 1 to 2 high ticket sales? I framed it this way. What would I do if I started from 0? Because a lot of them were starting from 0, to make my first 1 to 2 high ticket sales so that I can make this thing free, right? And if someone would have money objection, I would offer that. I'm like, yeah, it makes sense, but what if you can make a sale or 2 sales in the first 30 to 90 days? Would that help, right? And it helped me close a lot of sales. So if you're getting some frequent objections, you can add bonuses. You can have stories to overcome these objections, and analogies and other stuff. Now, let me know below what was one of your favorite lessons out of these 3, and do you have any lesson that you learned on your own journey? And if you enjoyed this video about sales, I think you're really gonna enjoy this one.